I'm going to give you some examples of conversations that I've had in the 17 odd years that I've served in campus ministry. We'll have something going on at the church here or at the center when I was at St. Thomas at Purdue University. Maybe we're hosting something, and we invite people to attend, and maybe we post something on Facebook. And the responses that I often get are, well, I would like to attend, or I really like this one, I want to attend. So we may send out 2,000 people invitations on Facebook, and we'll get a really strong 5 people to commit right away, and 150 maybes. Now, I get it. Sometimes it's the desire to wait until something else, maybe better, might come along. But most times I think it's difficult for us to decide what is truly important in our lives, whether it's a person or a relationship or even God. I don't know if any of you are familiar with Dr. Edward Sri. He's a theologian. Now he's at the Augustine Institute, which is in Colorado, but he's from Indiana. And he spoke several times at Purdue when I was there, and I got to know him pretty well. And he's written several books. And the very first time that he came to speak to our students at St. Thomas Aquinas at Purdue, he talked about a book that he had just written. It's called Men, Women, and the Mystery of Love. I highly recommend it, whether you're a couple that's dating or married. And it was a very challenging talk for our students mostly. But we had some of our resident parishioners there as well. And he began by talking about how difficult it is for us to make commitments. How we will wait until the very last moment to make a commitment. And so then he asked this group to imagine what it would feel like if somebody actually said right off, yes, I will do that, even if it was 2 weeks away. Well, we don't easily make commitments, and it's even more difficult at times to keep them. This is true of any time, and yet it seems particularly true of us these days. It's difficult for a person to make a promise for 50 hours, let alone 50 years. And so we avoid commitments, or we postpone a commitment. I will be your follower wherever you may go. But it has to wait. I need to do some things first. I need some tasks to accomplish, plans to realize. Let me bury my father first, or let me return to what I really enjoy. Or maybe we say, I need to finish school first, or this project at work first. And we often presume that being free means being loose, not tied down, unattached. Some people go as far to think that freedom really means that they don't have to make commitments. They think freedom means being able to give in to any desire or impulse. But when that's our definition of freedom, then what we're really doing is giving free rein to the flesh, as we hear in Paul's letter. Paul calls it slavery. We only begin to feel free when we begin to make commitment. And our freedom is only realized when we are able to give ourselves away in love. Our responsibility is to commit to love. If we are like the Galatians, we might be frightened by such a thing, because cravings of the flesh, the things of the material world that are all around us and tempting us, they entice us, they lure us. Those things can call us away from love commitments. Viktor Frankl, deceased now, he's been dead for quite a while, but he was a psychologist, and he wrote a book that I return to time and again called Man's Search for Meaning. And there's another book that he wrote called Yes to Life. He had an incredible life, including surviving the concentration camps during this World War II. And he said this: "There is something fearful about human responsibility, but at the same time something glorious. It is glorious to know that the future of the things and the people around us is dependent, even if only in a tiny way, upon our decision at any given moment." That reality that what we do can affect others in good ways. Perhaps the only lasting things we humans make are our promises, our commitments. Perhaps, too, our promises are the only parts of us that we ultimately keep. Without this making and keeping, it could be possible that we die never having fully lived. I was blessed to have great parents, and I can't imagine my father or mother ever making a promise to their children or their friends that they didn't keep, committing to us and never hesitating. It's what endures for me as their son. But when we can be bold to respond to that vocation of our humanity, that calling to love, that commitment that God has given each of us, nurtured by the Spirit, we become part of the very life of our Creator. On Friday, Cardinal Cupich, the Archbishop of Chicago, made the following statement after the ruling by the Supreme Court. "This ruling is not the end of a journey, but rather a start. It underscores the need to understand those who disagree with us and to inculcate an ethic of dialogue and cooperation. Let us begin to work building up the common good by choosing life." And then the bishop's statement read, "Now is the time to begin the work of building a post-Roe America. It is a time for coming together to build a society and economy that supports marriages and families, and where every woman has the support and resources she needs to bring her child into this world in love." Now, what struck me is that on that same day I heard an interview on the radio with the former governor of Mississippi, the place where the Dobbs decision started in the courts. And he talked about all that they did for children and mothers in his state. A state that rates at the very bottom of all 50 states when it comes to infant mortality. A state that rates at the very bottom when it comes to children's education. One of the few states that failed to expand medical assistance to the poor. So we might be able to make a commitment in good faith to oppose abortion and yet fail to understand that that's just the start of it. As Catholics and as Christians, there's other commitments that we are called to make. It's not either or, it's both. We must commit to creating an environment that meets the needs of parents so that they don't seek an abortion, that nourishes and educates and cares for our children. Jesus is saying that Christianity and Catholicism is a challenge. It's a commitment. It is not just a warm, fuzzy statement. Jesus values God more than a good night's sleep, more than family funerals, even more than courtesy to family and friends. And none of these are bad or evil things. They are good. But they receive their worth from love. Love is the primary reason for our lives and our deeds. It is the primary mission Jesus invites us to so urgently. Love of God above all. Love of our neighbor as ourselves, no matter what. Can we make that commitment?